It's a trap, you walk right into the hate. All over a new king that's face is just replaced. It's all the same, you still be ruled by force. And no matter who it is, they'll still carry on the torch. Just a lie, cheat, steal, half of what you make. Taxation is steps, it's time to vacate the state. Newsflash, all your cash is an IOU. From killers who really do steal from you. Inflation is a weapon used by every nation who says that they're saving the world through lies. That they disguise and pass off as bravery. Well, I got news, debt is slavery. It don't matter who's madder, a new master don't matter. When they both want the same, the state don't play no games. They got you trying to survive and put you on sides and ready to kill each other. That's conquer and divide. It's all for show, or for hyper control.
That's a 2020 can die in a car fire, boy.
And we're back with another episode of Buns and Ties. We're here with you on this Tuesday to give you all the things you want to hear and more.
And more.
Yeah. So, before we get started on this week's topic, we've had another fucking, man, 2020, man. Let me tell you, like, I feel like it can, like you said, die in a car fire.
Suck a super wasp's dick.
Yeah.
Is that right?
Or
wasps.
Do whatever, man, because fuck it, man. This year has sucked. Like, not just on a major, like, zeitgeist level because of COVID and all that and everything else. Like, you know, we had wildfires in Australia and where else? What else do we have?
Well, we had locusts swarming major countries and destroying their crops. We had the Chinese release their secret weapon, which was a communist duck army. We've got murder wasps that just showed up in Washington that came from, what was it, Japan?
Yeah.
They say when it stings you, it feels like you're being stabbed with hot metal. And I believe, if it's the same story I read, it can literally melt your skin, the poison.
You know, like, I'll say this once, I'll say it again. Whoever you are out there playing Jumanji, you need to chill the fuck out.
Put the board down.
Yeah, you need to go ahead and finish the game or stop rolling or something.
I heard a crazy fucking podcast yesterday while I was doing Instacart.
Yeah. It
was one of the higher side chats. It was a very, very, I don't want to say a bad interview, but it was like if I'm the guest and you're interviewing me, everything that you say, I take as an attack, and I fucking call you out on it.
Yeah.
It was very passive aggressive.
With
Greg Carlwood.
And Greg Carlwood was being aggressive?
It didn't seem that way, but the things that he said, the guest took offensively. So it was almost.
Oh, so the guest was on the.
You remember that podcast he did with the fuck was that dude's name? He did the Trivium, some of those Trivium episodes.
Yeah.
Whatever his name is.
I know what you're talking about.
It was the same thing like that.
Like,
but he was talking about ETs and UFOs and all that. And how some of the thing he's like, basically, if I go out there and put out what COVID excuse me, what COVID truly is, they'll shut down my YouTube channel. He's like, it's not an earthly made virus, and anybody that says it's man made is wrong. Yeah. Basically asserting that it came from outer space.
Yeah. And
that these ETs or whatever they are, they're not even necessarily physical beings, but that they're fourth dimensional. Yeah. And they can be contacted.
Which we've talked about that before, you know.
But that it comes from them and it's all that. But that was a fucking terrible interview.
Greg Carlwood just not feeling it? Or
I think he did a good job. I think the guest was going through something.
Being an asshole, basically?
Maybe Greg was going through it. He's like, I don't know if it was his fault or my fault. Maybe the quarantine's fucking with me and my people skills, but it was you.
I'll have to listen to it, because usually Greg does some pretty good...
yeah, he's very...
he's good. Like, you know what I like
he's like a willow tree.
Yeah, you know what I like about Greg Carlwood is like, you can tell when he necessarily doesn't agree with a guest's opinion.
Yeah.
But at the same time, he remains sympathetic.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, and it's just kind of like a shrug your shoulders, like, I don't know. I could be wrong. You know, we don't know. Like...
Yeah.
And that happens sometimes. And, you know, like, and you've seen it from me before, like, I, like, could get shitty with somebody really quick if we suddenly come at an impasse when it comes to, like, some opinion or something, and I have the opposite of that opinion. You've seen it before. You've seen me get...
Yeah, I get it.
Feathers ruffled.
I believe it's called turned up.
Yeah. And I unfortunately, you know, because I have rage issues. I've admitted to that before.
I believe you've actually used the term rageaholic.
I am a rageaholic. You could ask my fiance too. Like, it's a drug to me. It's probably my biggest vice in the grand scheme of things.
What's good is it's not physical. You're not like police. You don't come home from beating up minorities to like seeing your dishes aren't done or having a cold dinner.
I don't.
Beating your
I don't punch holes through walls or shit like that. I get really, really. I mean, I hate saying this word because I think it gets used too much, but I do get toxic. Like I call it spitting venom. Like I spit venom and I fucking say mean shit when I'm in my throes, right? But I think I'm better than I used to be. But anyways, like, I could see, you know, especially during this, like, during the COVID crisis and all that, blah, 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 how people being distant from each other, it reinforces your own bubble, right? Mm-hmm. Because of your isolation, your bubble has become stronger. Because, like, think of it almost like it's coagulated or calcified. Because you haven't had contact with people or other ideas, right? And during this time, I think people are seeking out comfort, and things that are comfortable instead of like. But I think there's people doing good work out there, and I think that's like the number one thing people should be doing is trying to do the great work, right?
Yeah, capital G.
Yeah. So, you know, and that being said, a good recommendation for a show if anybody wants to watch it. Would be The Midnight Gospel on Netflix. Man. That's like, have you seen it yet?
I watched some of it, yeah.
Man, listen.
But I've been hip to his podcast for a while, so it's like a revisiting.
Yeah, Duncan Trussell is always on that great work. I'd love to spend a weekend with that motherfucker.
We talked a little bit, or I talked a little bit of shit about him a while ago, though.
Oh, yeah?
On the podcast.
What was it about, like?
Just the possibility. We actually had a run-in in our free lives here at the Factory of Sadness with a theistic Satanist.
Oh, okay.
Someone who, you know, says that Satan's real and worships him and his tenets and all that.
Yeah.
But Duncan Trussell, while I love him on the surface, I question him on the below the surface. Okay. Picture the iceberg.
Yeah.
Metaphor in your mind. But remember that picture I showed you of Joe the Show Rogan? Where, like, he, you know, attained all this success. Now, don't get me wrong, he's talented. He's a great dude. Yeah. For all intents and purposes. But he said some things in the interview talking about ETs and basically knowing the end game. He's like, I'd lie to my own mom if you just told me the truth. Yeah. And then, you know, he shut the fuck up about a lot of things he was talking about. Yeah. Well, the picture I showed you with Joe Rogan and Anton LaVey, where that was at a wedding where Duncan Trussell was performing a satanic puppet show. Huh. They're all in cahoots. So it's like, I'm not saying they're theistic, but I wonder if they touch on that level of Luciferianism or Satanism that Mark Passio talks about.
It's either that or here's the thing that I like to think about is that some people who gravitate towards the LaVeyan Satanism and stuff like that, they're doing it as a rebellion against the religion, the regularity. Sure. Like
that's what I'm saying.
I don't think they're theistic Luciferians by any means. I think they're rebels against
the system.
Right? And to that extent, like,
I just wonder.
But the problem is like when you go down that rabbit hole, I feel like you're locking yourself into like new forms of regulation, and because your mockery and your defiance in and of itself creates its own new system, right? Yeah. Where like, and that's why I love, like, if you watch the Midnight Gospel, they talk a lot about Eastern philosophy and stuff like that. Yeah. And I like Eastern philosophy because it's a lot more.
He's super into it.
It's super unregulated.
Yeah.
Like, there's so many different. That's why you get a lot of like, you know, people like Ram Dass and stuff like that are doing their own thing. Like, it's all part of the same like universe. Yeah. But there's not as much like dogma and rules and systems in place. Right. And because even if you look at LaVeyan Satanism,
responsibility.
Yeah, there is dogma in it. Right. There's things that they do.
It's Antichrist. It's literally the exact opposite. They literally went so far out that they made it the exact opposite of Christianity.
Yeah. But anybody out there wants to watch, I think, a very well-spoken, well-thought-out show.
Well, like you said, the story of his mom's death is...
Oh, my God.
Touching's not the word.
Yeah. And, like, just, like, a lot of the conversations, a lot of the show involves death. Yeah. And the concepts of death and dying and what happens after you die.
Right. Soul Trap. We've talked about it.
Yeah, like there's a whole episode about the soul prison.
The Gnostic Death Trap.
Yeah, and it's fucking crazy. You gotta check it out for yourself.
Yeah.
But other than that,
I got a message to read.
Oh, okay.
Somebody asked me, I believe it was the doctor the other day. He said, who are the three amigos? Mm-hmm. You know, because we've been dabbling in their business as of late. And I said, well, here's the thing. There's really only two ways to go look at it that I can think of. Yeah. They're either, you know, friends that work together or know each other and are having a good time using my mouth. Yeah. No homo, of course, to publicize their message to one another. And that's fine. I'm cool with that. I like to think that. I like to think that's the only way I can look at it. Yeah. But on the dark side, they could just be CIA operatives, and we're activating MK Ultra patients all across the country. But I don't want to go down that rabbit hole. No. So I've got another message to read for them, and hopefully there are no public shootings or anything crazy.
Hopefully they're not being used as a fucking shill for CIA ops or something.
Just touch on the Joe Rogan thing again, and you know we're not getting a paycheck.
Yeah, we're getting paid for this. What the fuck?
This is free.
It's free real estate.
Yeah, one of them got on our Patreon, patreon.com/Bones and Tubs. We're getting that $1 hitter. That's why we did the shout out. But anyway, to Bones and Tubs. Well done, gents. Getting the right info into the right hands. The three amigos shall further that end. Three amigos. Mr. Bond. Well done. Continuing the project. This keeps up. John will get a haircut. Remembering Lil Bighorn. Redbeard. Operation Alice is in its final stage. Dr. Gonzo. Welcome back to the Tsavo. Is that right? TSA via Tsavo.
Let's say Savo.
Savo. In the names of those we have lost, Gamer Josh, Herbal Essence, and of course, my deepest condolences to Captain Dunsel. Fog over and out.
Somebody's dead.
Yeah, this shit got real.
Man, listen, so, no.
No.
Especially considering the topic of today's episode, that makes me even more nervous.
Fuck it, man.
We're gonna be part of court documents now. Like,
we were just helpless boys doing a podcast.
We're gonna get harassed by Alex Jones.
Yeah, he's gonna come to us and you'll be naked in your kitchen and be like, "Here's a bag of money, Tubbs. I got documents and I got money."
He's got a cell phone now, just
and a hard on. You know, circumcised to that Zionist boy.
Yeah, but other than that, well,
that got heavy.
You know, they're talking about right now to move on. You know, if you haven't out already, I feel like any Bones and Tubbs listener worth their salt has collected some copious amount of protein to consume because they are talking about meat shortages.
I was gonna make it.
And you know, here's the thing about it is it seems like this is predictive programming. They're letting you know it's going to happen before it happens.
So they're
trying to
they're not held in contempt for it karmically.
They're trying to make us cause a meat shortage because when they talk about a meat shortage, people are all of a sudden like, "Oh shit, we got to go get the meat."
Shit, I eat meat.
Yeah, so everybody runs out and buys meat, and now, oh look, there's a shortage now.
They said that they fucking killed 60,000 chickens the other day because of the supply line breakdown.
Listen,
shut up.
Listen, do you need me to go out there? Like, I will go get chickens.
How many chickens can you fit? Dead, of course, into a pickup truck that is refrigerated. Because I can drive a semi.
Listen, that's a whole lot of chickens.
I'm just saying. If you need somebody, holler at your boy Bones. He had his CDLs at one time.
I worked at a slaughterhouse too. If you need people to start cutting up animals wholesale,
the country needs Bones and Tubbs. Is what we're saying.
Yeah, exactly.
I'll drive him. He'll kill him.
I'll go play in blood. You know, like, it'll be animal blood, but I'll go play in blood if we have to feed the people. Like.
Oh, by the way, I'm sorry.
Oh, no, good. No, you're good.
You ever watch Prepper Nurse 1 on YouTube?
A little bit, yeah.
He had a video yesterday where he was talking about things that are going on right now, and he's like, he does the walk and talks. He goes through his farm. Yeah. And he's like, he looks into his chicken coop, and he's like, that's not good. And then he's like looking at eggs. Mm-hmm. There's a hen that he recently got her that had grown from a chick. Yeah. And it had been pecking eggs and eating eggs. He's like, I really don't want to dispatch her. I really don't. But I have no choice.
She's eating the goddamn eggs.
That chicken, I guarantee his property smelled like Lee's famous recipe later that night. Because he was burning something.
But no.
Sorry to interrupt.
No, but I guess the meat shortages. I've heard rumors and things about Wendy's running out of meat.
Yeah.
The thing is, I just had KFC last night because I went over to my mom and dad's, and that's what they wanted to eat, and I said that's cool because I love fried chicken.
Thumbs up.
I love the kernel, but they gave us a 16-piece like it was nothing.
Well, that's because they have those weird 12-breast chickens.
Yeah,
allegedly.
Hey, listen, I will eat mutant chickens right now if it keeps the food supply.
I'm trying to get these gains, my bro.
Yeah, hey, it's still protein at the end of the day, and it stops me from. I was talking to somebody the other day, and they were talking about how it was. I don't think we have a name for him on the show. We'll just call him the Sergeant.
Call me.
So
I'll delete all
we were
that.
talking to him, and he was talking about how he was talking about eating cicadas, and how you could cook them and eat them. And I was like, oh, that's real interesting. I'll take your word for it, though.
Yeah, that's all
like,
you, bro.
Listen, I was like, Homer, like the classical Greek storyteller Homer, warned us about the locust eaters a long time ago. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Don't eat bugs.
Shouldn't do it.
Don't eat bugs.
Nope.
I mean, like, each their own, but he warned us about the locust eaters.
Also, don't eat that Beyond Meat shit because it's probably people.
That or it's got estrogen in it that'll give you man titties.
Yeah, the way we cure COVID is by making everybody a sympathetic bitch.
Hey, listen, women, you guys can eat it all you want.
Yeah, for sure. But men, though.
Nah. I'm sure there's here's the thing. If you're, what's it called, a pescatarian?
Simp?
Well, no, I'm not going to call them simps.
No, I wasn't sure.
Or it's a pescatarian, right?
I don't know.
They eat fish, right?
Okay.
I could see that, right? Understanding, but at the same time,
dolphin or fish.
Dolphin
are probably smarter than people.
Or vegetarian, right? Because vegetarians, they eat cheese and they eat eggs and honey and shit like that. They'll eat animal products, right? They just don't eat meat.
So it shuts off a vegan.
So you can still get, vegans, as far as I'm concerned, vegan is where you've gone too far. Because you don't eat any animal products whatsoever.
Right.
You know how much, okay, you see, we're not, I'm no scientist. But, okay, if you look at, an animal that eats, only plants and vegetables and shit like that, if you look at their anatomy, they've got a digestive system built exclusively for eating just plant material all the time. They got a rumen.
I want to know how gorillas get so big.
Here's the scary part of gorillas. I saw a meme about this. This was a while ago. They said gorillas are just gorillas. They're not even trying to have gains or be swole, right? It just is.
Yeah.
Imagine if they actually tried to be strong.
They got in the gym. They started hitting that whey protein.
Jesus fucking Christ.
Started shooting bull shark testosterone.
But think about they have to eat shitloads of food in order to get what they need, right? They spend their whole day eating, and that's plant material and fruits and vegetables and shit. That's what you have to do in order to look like a gorilla. You literally have to spend your whole day eating. You're basically a sumo wrestler at that point, Okay, so, but anyways, the only other thing I really wanted to mention, other than the fact that our conspiracies about the moon hornets are real.
Yeah, we've talked about that for a long time.
God damn it, you know what? I don't usually try during this time. I'm not asking for money, but y'all, we talked about the moon hornets a long motherfucking time ago.
Yeah, the murder hornets that are on the West Coast right now are definitely phase 1.
Do you think that's milk? Do you think it's just milk? It's just something to make us
It could very well be.
I think it's just milk. I think it's just something
we have a lot of listeners out in Washington State. If you guys know anything personally or have heard or seen anything about these murder hornets, please hit us up in our Gmail, bonesandtubs@gmail.com.
Because I feel like during this time, people are starting to get real antsy right now.
Yeah,
and they're give them something to chew on, right?
Yeah. It's just like the story we were talking about earlier with that COVID shit with those kids.
It's just pushing, and think of the real things, the more important things that they're pushing out of the way, the fact that nobody talks about Epstein anymore.
Oh, Jeffrey Epstein, the one that didn't kill himself, that ran a giant sex trafficking ring of children to politicians and famous Hollywood types.
Yeah, whose accomplice is still on the lam, even though she's a multimillionaire who is well documented in being in certain places. but for some reason we can't put a pin in her.
Kind of like Osama bin Laden, who was getting treated for kidney dialysis over in an army hospital before 9/11 while he was on the top 10 on the FBI's wanted list.
Yeah.
Okay.
Like that.
Copy.
But other than that, the only other thing I wanted to mention and kind of mull it over and see what you thought about it was Justin Amash leaving the Republican Party and joining the Libertarians and throwing his hat in the ring for a presidential bid.
I like where your head's at.
Yeah.
I do. I know your heart's in the right place.
Yeah.
I don't like him.
Okay, but here's the thing, though, and this is what I'm saying. I'm not defending the man, right?
Yeah.
But, like, okay, he is not, one, I don't believe he's compromised. Like, right? Like, he has a belief system.
Okay.
Okay, even if it doesn't 100% align up with mine, it aligns up more than the other two candidates, because, first of all, but then again, I've debated whether I'm even voting in this presidential election or not, because, like...
Voting is violence.
You're voting is violence. You're voting for the slave master you think will be the nicest to you.
Or the one that'll cause the collapse as a collapsitarian.
Yeah. But he has thrown his hat in the ring, and if you want, I'm not endorsing him, but if you set the three in front of me and said, which one are you going to vote for? I'd probably say him. Real. Whether I like him or not, I don't like Trump and I don't like Biden. So
I branch away from anarchy in the way that I supported Adam Kokesh.
Yeah.
Because anarchists are like, well, if you're a true anarchist, Adam, why are you running for president?
He said he wanted to dismantle the system.
Yeah, his whole thing was, I'm going to be a president for a day, basically, and I'm going to initiate bankruptcy that's going to destroy the federal government and take everything back to the states.
But here's the thing. The only reason I wanted to mention Justin Amash is because he...
It's definitely a good thought exercise.
But here's the thing, is that, like, where... Okay, they're predicting there's a possibility this dude could fuck everything up. Mm-hmm. Like, split the electoral vote three ways. Because... Here's the thing: you have people who are Trumpers who are always going to vote for Trump no matter what, right? So you have those. You have the people that vote blue no matter who.
Yeah.
Right. I have a belief that those two groups are in the minority to everybody else.
Well, yeah, you said for a long time that if did not vote was a candidate, he'd win every time.
Yeah. Because here's the thing: Justin Amash, when it comes to I want to see him on the debate stage, right? Get him in front of a microphone.
Are we still doing debates?
I don't know, man. Well, the debates between the candidates from different parties won't be till like fucking August at the very least.
I want Trump to do his on the toilet. I want it to be digital.
But think about it like this: you got these three dudes, right? Put them on a stage together. You got Trump, crazy as fuck.
Biden, who can't string a sentence together.
Yeah, he can't put a goddamn sentence together to save his fucking life, right?
Yeah.
And then you have this dude who leans to the right on certain topics when it comes to Trump, and leans left on certain topics when it comes to Biden. He kind of splits it down the middle. You know what I mean? Where if you look at the political spectrum in the grand scheme of things, Biden and Trump are not that far away from each other. They're very close. They're like this close to each other. You can't see it because you're lifting this in a car.
He's putting
or whatever.
his fingers together.
I'm putting my fingers about 3 millimeters apart right now.
He has excellent fingernails.
Justin Amash is just all he is further south of him.
Yeah.
Right? But he's enough away from him where he's jumped away from the pack and been able to like get people to notice him. Mm-hmm. Right? I'm not, like I said, I don't even know if I'm voting in this next election because, like you said, voting is violence. But at the same time, like if you put a gun to my head and said vote for one of these motherfuckers, I'd probably vote for him for real. Because one, where every other Republican wants to lick Trump's boots, he's been an adamant detractor of that of our president for quite a while, and I like to see people who are willing to defy party politics to give their give their opinion.
I wouldn't be surprised if we saw some crazy shit happen with the Democrats.
I've heard some crazy shit, like because they're not
going to run.
They're nervous. They're nervous as fuck because that dude can't talk. Like,
have you ever watched like a string compilation of him saying like basically running for Trump type shit? Like,
yeah, oh yeah, or like he can't even like his shit doesn't even like. It's like watching a bad AI program like talk, you know, or like I said, I only wanted to mention it because I thought it was interesting, and there are people out there that are saying he could very well split the vote.
Yeah,
because he's not. Let's face it, both of those old motherfuckers are disgusting as fuck.
Yeah.
Like, you know, like, here's the thing.
I got into an argument earlier with the dude on Instagram who's a communist. Mm-hmm. You know, we talked about it.
Yeah.
And his whole thing is that I'm a boomer, I'm a Q boomer, which is not true in either way.
Yeah.
Basically, he doesn't know nothing about me. Mm-hmm. But they also tried to put the libertarian label on me, put me in that box. Not true. He said libertarians are cucks. I think anybody that has any faith in government's a cuck. Yeah. Like you said, you know, you're giving your money away.
You're still about giving your money to
other people's money.
An entity that never has your best interest at heart. Let's just face it. I mean, never. I'll say that, and then I challenge anybody to bring anything forward to speculate otherwise.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because you can't mention toppling terrible governments and dictators and shit like that because the governments didn't do that. People came together and did that. Mm-hmm. So, but other than that, I didn't really have anything else I wanted to talk about till the end of the show.
Oh, Kim Jong-un's back, but that's not very important.
Yeah, right. He came back.
Allegedly.
Which makes one wonder what his ass was doing during that time.
I don't know. There's all kinds of conspiracy around his whole new wrist edition.
Wrist edition? He's
got a new implant in his wrist.
Oh, really?
Yeah. People are trying to put him on the revelation that Mark of the Beast hit him.
Maybe, the comet or the asteroid didn't hit us, which is, I guess, good.
I cannot remember the person I was talking to, but we did talk about the comet and the Iridium Next. It was in... fuck. I was talking to somebody on Instagram, I believe. Sorry, I forgot your name. I'm not a professional. But like Iridium Next... Basically, we were talking back and forth like space is fake type shit. That whole thing, they were going to just do low Earth orbit tungsten rods and say it was asteroids or whatever. Yeah. But that might be the next step along with all this. I mean, the one thing we didn't mention that's super huge is the fact that the government came out and admitted to UFOs. Mm-hmm. They came out Pentagon's website.
Yeah, they like put up a bunch of images and like basically said, which they're probably lying about that too.
They don't ever tell the truth.
Because they were like, they threw them out there and they're like, we don't know what they are.
Yeah, it's probably, if anything, re-engineered tech, I would imagine.
That or it's predictive programming and they're just getting us, they're softening us up for...
The reason why they used Iridium Next was for...
I'm an amateur.
No, it's no problem. God damn it, Project Bluebeam.
Yeah.
Where they just had to aerosolize the sky with heavy metals and they would be able to holographically program a, religious figure, a religious symbol, or an alien invasion into the sky. And that we might be at that point. I believe it was Nixon or Reagan. I think it was Reagan that said that the only way we could bring about a one world government is to have an external threat from the planet.
Do you think like they have the power to like make the entity that shows up and like basically the thing that you think God looks like? So like for me, like it's individual, everybody's different. Like for some it would be Jesus or Muhammad or what have you. Or like for me, like, a giant John Candy comes flying through the sky at me. Like,
yeah. Who was the dude from We Don't Roll on Shabbos?
Oh, fucking John Goodman. A massive Titan John Goodman. Yeah. Like when I say Titan, I mean like Godzilla sized.
Yeah.
John Goodman just comes rolling down, We
don't roll on Shabbos.
Yeah. Yeah. I feel like here's the thing. If that's what happens, I gotta give the government props on that one because they did some next level shit that I didn't think was possible. Or like they had like dragons flying through the sky or something. Like, I don't know. I'm just snowballing at this point. But I'd say let's get on to the topic of the day.
Yes.
We actually mentioned it.
Back in time.
Yeah, we mentioned it in the last episode. I made a comment and said, I was like, because we were talking about the series Waco. I was like, you know what? I was like, we've done a really good Ruby Ridge. We've done a really good Waco. I was like, I feel like this needs to be a 3-part thing because I feel like this event ultimately came from those 2 events.
Yeah.
Supposedly. That's the thing though. That's the narrative we've been given is that, so that's how we're going to play it out anyways. You know what I mean? Today we're talking about the Oklahoma City bombing. Shit, some of you might not have been alive when that shit happened. I remember it.
Probably a lot of them aren't. I know we have a varied demographic when it comes to age.
What's our demographic? Like,
let me check. We got our demographics on downloads, but where's the motherfucking age gap? Let's just go to Spotify. Basically, I'm not even gonna look it up. The demographic that I saw last, we are at about just over 50-50 split on men and women.
Okay.
but it's slightly more men, and the largest demographic. While we have a healthy amount in all age groups, we are definitely highest in the. I think it's 23 to 35.
Oh, so in our age range then.
Basically.
Well, okay. All right. Well, then some of you will remember it then.
Yeah.
But the 23-year-olds, no, you're not. That was before you were alive.
We do have a lot of young boys, though. Young girls.
Yeah.
Young
But
others.
to break it down for you, basically, I'm gonna give you just the things that happened, regardless of how they happened. That's what we'll get into.
We're talking about the mainstream story.
But well, let's just say this is the things that happened. We know they happened, right? Okay. April 19th, 1995. The bombing happened at 9:02 a.m. and killed at least 168 people, injured more than 680 others, and destroyed 1/3 of the building. The blast destroyed or damaged 324 other buildings within a 16-block radius, shattered glass in 258 nearby buildings, and destroyed or burned 86 cars. Caused an estimated $652 million worth of damage, probably inflated.
For that $10,000 hammer they had to use to fix everything.
Yeah. Local, state, federal, and worldwide agencies engaged in extensive rescue efforts in the wake of the bombing, and substantial donations were received from across the country. The Federal Emergency Management Agency, you know who they are, activated 11 of its urban search and rescue task forces, consisting of 665 rescue workers who assisted in the rescue and recovery operations. Until the September 11th attacks in 2001, I'm sorry. I tried to think of something witty to say. Perpetrated by our own government.
I thought you were trying to do a joke. I was going to say we can't do 9/11 jokes because they're just plain wrong.
The Oklahoma City bombing was the deadliest terrorist attack in the history of the United States and remains the deadliest incident of domestic terrorism in the country's history. Well, that's under the pretense that it was an act of domestic terrorism.
Not funded by the government.
Within 90 minutes of the explosion, Timothy Mcveigh was stopped by Oklahoma Highway Patrolman Charlie Hanger for driving without a license plate and arrested for illegal weapons possession. And I read more into that. The part that blew my mind was this motherfucker was driving an old-ass Mercury.
Yeah.
Rusted out, fucking blasted out, no license plate, and pulled, he was a big, glaring fucking...
Hey,
what are you doing?
World of Warcraft, he would have been a giant golden exclamation point. That's a quest right there.
Yeah.
It's time to start that quest.
I can't talk. Forensic evidence quickly linked Mcveigh and Terry Nichols. I forgot to mention him.
Ah, yes, Terrence.
To the attack. Nichols was arrested and with days. Both were charged. Michael and Lori Fortier were later identified as accomplices. Mcveigh, a veteran of the Gulf War and U.S. military movement sympathizer, U.S. militia movement sympathizer, had detonated a... Okay, now this is where we get into this is the government's narrative. This isn't... We can't say it's the... Well, let's just say it's the official narrative.
Right.
Official doesn't mean anything. It's an illusion just like authority.
Yes.
Motivated by his dislike for the U.S. federal government and unhappy about its handling of the Ruby Ridge incident in 1982 and the Waco siege in 1993, Mcveigh timed his attack to coincide with the second anniversary of the deadly fire that ended the siege at the Branch Davidian compound in Waco, Texas. If you all remember, we did an episode about the Branch Davidians in Waco and how the government basically killed a lot of people. That's not to say that David Koresh wasn't a fucking lunatic, but that's beyond the point.
Yeah.
He wasn't a fucking lunatic that deserved to die, be slaughtered. And neither did the other fucking, God, it was 130-something people and children, 17 children that perished in the fire that supposedly was perpetrated by the Branch Davidians. But then later we find out that they used incendiary smoke grenades inside.
On purpose.
Yes. So.
To burn it down. Kill babies.
But anyways, so the official narrative, Mcveigh and Nichols built this bomb. Right. Composed of ammonium nitrate, nitromethane, which is racing fuel, and then Tovex, which is another nitrogen mixture of this plastique, right?
Right.
Loaded up all the shit in these 55-gallon drums and detonated it and blew up a huge part of the building, right?
Yeah.
And...
It was such a good explosion that it caused the building to blow out instead of in.
Yeah.
Even though it was parked in front of the building. It was such a good bomb. They did such a good job that it blew debris away from the explosion over, I think it was a half a mile.
Yeah. So
none of my business.
Basically, and mind you, this is in a Ryder truck, and by their estimate, 7,000 pounds of this shit was loaded into the back.
Not a sponsor, but shout out Ryder for being able to carry that heavy load.
That's a heavy load.
That's a big load.
7,000 pounds?
Yeah. Yes, batch.
I almost had, like, even that is, like, kind of, like, questionable. Like,
yeah.
I've seen what Ryder trucks struggle with, like, some house furniture and beds.
Luckily, they didn't have to drive up any hills, hopefully, you know?
Yeah.
That's red line, son.
Basically, there's this official narrative. They built these things. They did it because of Waco and da-da-da-da-da. But then, and here's the thing is when you go searching for stuff, conspiracy stuff involving this,
right,
you don't have to look too far. It's pretty near the surface because people are like asking questions like, how the fuck were these two dudes able to build a bomb that powerful and precise on their own?
It's pretty cute, too, that just by us uploading this episode, even if we don't have anything about Oklahoma City bombing in the title, it's going to have a Wikipedia article beneath it telling you the narrative story of the bombing.
Oh, we'll get just to acts like, I forgot we'll talk about at the end of the show, David Icke. But, so basically, a lot of people question whether or not Mcveigh and Nichols, like, where did they learn how to make this bomb, right?
Well, if history's an indication, the alphabet agencies are no stranger to danger when it comes to teaching people how to use bombs, and then they arrest them at the very last moment after they give them inert ingredients.
Like, this is an excerpt from The Guardian, which that's like a very heavy liberal thing.
Yeah.
That had an article concerning questioning the narrative, right?
Mm-hmm.
And this is an excerpt from it. We don't know how Mcveigh and Nichols learned to build a fertilizer bomb of such size and power. Neither received more than rudimentary explosives training when they served together in the Army, and their early experiments with smaller dices were haphazard at best.
Yeah.
So
somehow they went from being less than amateur to being fucking expert fucking building blowers.
Yeah. Blowing 7,000 pounds of explosives.
It was probably a test run for what the government did in 9/11. But anyway, what were you saying?
Okay, so it goes on to say, we don't know the identities of the other people seen with Mcveigh on the morning of the bombing, only that more than 20 eyewitnesses were unanimous in telling the FBI that he was not alone.
Yeah.
Okay? That right there should be the linchpin in anybody understanding that there was more going on to this than what we were led to believe.
Not the lone gunman.
And I would go on to say that considering the U.S. intelligence agencies, I should reemphasize, involvement in coups, overthrowing governments, democratically elected governments, mind you,
mm-hmm.
and teaching insurgents how to create explosive devices, that those individuals that they're talking about and referencing there weren't government agents.
Right. Government involvement probably heavy in this.
The article goes on to say there's no ready explanation for a different Ryder truck seen by witnesses at McVeigh's motel in Kansas and at the state park where the bomb was assembled in the week leading up to the bombing. So there was a different truck altogether.
Yeah.
That eyewitnesses saw. No explanation for the other people seen inside McVeigh's motel room during the same period. No satisfactory explanation of the fact that two people were seen renting the bomb truck on 17th of April, neither of them entirely fitting McVeigh's description.
So I have a quick question.
Yeah.
Let's say that there was no government involvement
mm-hmm.
in this. This is all that McVeigh boy and his boy.
Yeah.
How then did the Alphabet Boys respond to this explosion within, I want to say, less than 10 minutes? A lot less than 10 minutes.
Yeah.
And they were in full battle rattle. They're in bomb gear.
Mm-hmm.
They already knew. They were already there. They'd already staged their vehicles. They were literally there after the bomb went off.
Yeah. So it's like they knew it was about to happen.
Yes.
And then blame it on anti-government people.
White people.
Well, they always like to tag the white nationalist aspect.
Yeah.
You know, and yeah, I get it. It's low-hanging fruit. It's easy, right? It's easy to lay the blame.
Yeah.
Right? Because, I mean, they're not exactly, a lot of the white nationalist people aren't the most stable individuals, you know. But that's the thing, though. You only see, and that's what kills me about the whole thing, is when it comes to anti-government individuals, you only see the worst examples. You never see the best examples. You never see the people that live out in the middle of nowhere, or the communes who live on their own and produce their own food and educate their children themselves and live off the grid. You don't hear about them. You know why? Because that doesn't fit their narrative, right?
Yeah. I can't remember this dude's name, but you reminded me of him in that breakdown. Mm-hmm. I want to say his name is Anthony Gage. I found him, correct me if I'm wrong, I'm sure somebody out there listening knows who I'm talking about, but I was getting that, I fucking forget the name of the magazine. We've talked about it before. It's like the This Week in Hate, basically. It's a government-only publication that anybody can get if you just go on and like basically name that you're an employee for your local sheriff's office. Mm-hmm. The intelligence report.
Yeah.
It's put out by the Southern Poverty Law Center. Some of those magazines have in the middle of them like a list, or at the end of them a list of like books and publications and people that you shouldn't look at. Yeah. So I went, of course, and bought the Pink Swastika. Yeah. It was put together by a Baptist preacher and a Jew. Mm-hmm. And completely spin the story of Hitler, that he was basically like all the Nazis were alpha homosexuals, and they were just trying to kill, whatever. Anyway, Anthony Gage was listed in that same magazine. I look him up. He's an ex-Marine, kind of like Adam Kokesh. Yeah. He is very anti-government. He's a white nationalist, but he's clearly a Fed. Yeah. He just has Fed stamped on his forehead. Mm-hmm. He's the dude that if you follow and like link up with, you're going to go to prison.
Yeah, so he's deep cover there.
Deep cover, but it's so gross. Yeah. But like they're, like you said, they're so sloppy with it now.
Oh yeah. And there's other things concerning like after the bombing and everything, like so right after it happened, Congress passed the Anti-Terrorism Effective Death Penalty Act of 1996, which severely restricted federal courts' ability to grant habeas corpus relief, paving the way for speedier executions. They got killed real fucking quick.
Killed in air quotes.
Let's put killed in air quotes.
Yes.
Because he was an asset, so he's probably... Where do you think he is?
I definitely have a full belief in my mind that he got reconstructive surgery and sent wherever the fuck he wanted to go.
Yeah. So you could know him. He could be your neighbor.
Yeah.
He's that nice guy.
Works for the Social Security office. Yeah. Or the post office.
He goes somewhere every day. You know that much. You don't really, he works for the government.
He lives meager. He might have like a $300,000 house. He's just trying to get along, trying to keep up with the Joneses. Got that zero-turn mower that Hispanic fellow uses to mow his yard.
But basically, this happens. They yoke up these two dudes, Terry Nichols and Timothy Mcveigh. They slept, they go a haberdash slap through fucking kangaroo court trial,
right,
and get them both convicted.
Did they admit to it?
Oh, yeah, they did.
Okay, that's what I thought.
Timothy Mcveigh, well, at first they said that there was accomplices, and then later they recanted and said they didn't have any accomplices. It was just them.
Right. Because that was terms of their facial reconstruction.
Well, because then, you can sever the thread.
Yeah.
Right?
That's
so it began and ended with them, so you don't have to, like, question. You don't have to pull the thread and say, were there more people?
Kind of like the specific number of terrorists on 9/11 that we...
But another thing I pulled up that I thought was interesting came from Mother Jones, and that was an article concerning an individual who was basically killed by the feds, who just happened to look like a supposed accomplice of these individuals. His name was Jesse Trentadue. His brother's a lawyer.
Oh, those loose ends.
Yeah, and he committed suicide.
Like Epstein, didn't he?
And then when the family got to recover the body, like I said, his brother was a lawyer. When they recovered the body, it was covered in fucking bruises.
Neat.
Like he'd been tortured.
Yeah.
And
fine.
if money, if doling out money could be construed as keeping someone quiet, then they kept his family quiet as fuck, because they ended up winning $1.1 million.
What was his name again?
Jesse Trentadue.
Okay, just so they don't have to hit the rewind.
Yeah. You could look into him and the fact that he was basically killed for no goddamn reason at all.
Simply looking like an accomplice.
There's a huge article on Mother Jones.
Which is also leftist, right?
Yes. Neat. I took a big cut. I took only a few things out of it because it is huge. It took me like, I'm not saying, it took me like a half hour to fucking read this article because it was massive, right? But I took the parts that I realized were
important.
Yes. So, okay. This last excerpt is pretty good, too. An examination of the official investigative files on the Oklahoma City bombing, about 1 million pages of material, does little to bolster the assertion of Frank Keating, a former FBI agent who was Oklahoma governor in 1995, that 2 evil men did this and 2 evil men paid. Rather, it does the opposite. The impression confirmed by the memories of frontline investigators and lawyers who prosecuted the case, but did not speak independently about it for many years, is as of leads dangling or shut down instead of being pursued with the FBI customary vigor. Obvious suspects were offered deals by government prosecutors, usually but not always in exchange for their testimony. Others slithered down the priority list until they were lost or forgotten. Half a dozen right-wing radicals fingered as possible suspects by government informants or by fellow anti-government warriors were not questioned about the bombing even when it became clear they had lied about their whereabouts on the 19th of April. So, once again, I don't know where you want to put that excerpt from that witness.
The interview?
Yeah, do you want to put it at the end?
Well, we'll go ahead and just give a preamble now, and I'll put it down.
Okay. So
get the name right.
And we're just going to put it at the end of the episode?
Or I can do that, yeah.
Yeah, we could just put it at the end. And we'll just let them know now.
Okay.
So at the end of the episode, we're going to play a interview with a individual who survived the bombing.
Her name is Jane Graham.
And how she was coerced by federal agents to deny that she had seen Timothy McVeigh before the bombing inside the building with other individuals who were,
as well as a maintenance department or something that they had hired recently that were working with gray sticks of butter and copper wire, which is C4.
And apparently weren't very friendly, according to her.
Yeah, not very friendly.
Yeah.
You'd think if you'd have that personality to not raise questions, but they're there to do a job, so...
But, and that, mind you, like, they came to her in the hospital, correct?
Yeah, the Alphabet Boys were going around, allegedly. I forget which branch, FBI, Secret Service, one of them. Mm-hmm. And they were interviewing the witnesses. And anybody that saw anything mysteriously died of a natural...
So, I feel like...
She didn't remember anything. That's why she lived.
The question you got to ask yourself is why, right? Why do this? And it's got a pretty easy answer. I would say they bought themselves a good 20-some-odd years of people being against anti-government sentiment. If not to this day, the stigma is still there that people who are questioning the government's narrative or people who
he's a good reference point.
Want to live on their own and do things like that are considered crazy because...
you don't need Big Brother or Big Sister, clearly. You're Timothy McVeigh.
Because they needed something to show that they were bad guys, right? Because Ruby Ridge and for in the public sentiment, Ruby Ridge and Waco did not paint these individuals as bad people.
Right.
It painted them as people who wanted to live on their own, and the government were impeding on them.
Victims.
Yeah. So they needed something to make themselves like look necessary again. Like, this is why you need us, right? So this happens.
There's even some rabbit holes. I think it was Army, maybe. I didn't do enough. I can't remember. Timothy McVeigh was military. Mm-hmm. And that supposedly he was discharged in some way, shape, or form. But there are pictures that exist of him still on military bases in uniform.
Yeah, I've seen those pictures before, too.
Yeah.
Of him still being in uniform after being discharged.
So that's a Black Ops hire.
I would say that, and it goes back to your, MK Ultra and things like that, where you get these individuals who take cop-outs for leniency.
Yeah, so
or
basically...
not just leniency, but just fucking do it because they're an agent, and then they go, like you said, get reconstructive surgery and fucking disappear for the rest of the...
Several theories that he either got reconstructive surgery and lives his life somewhere else, or he believed he was going to get those things and they killed him. But he definitely was on the government payroll, in my mind, and... There's more to this story than they would tell you.
And that's the thing. So we've
everything else.
We've given you guys a lot to chew on, right?
Yes.
And I feel like you should go out there and look this shit up for yourself so you don't think we're just talking shit, right?
Right.
Like, there's more to this. And I think, like I said before, there's a reason for it. And the reason was to turn public sentiment against these individuals who question the government's narrative and question government encroaching in our lives as well.
Yeah.
Right? It's the same people... Like, because it amazes me that there's people out there who are willing to snitch on their neighbors because they're doing something outside of the quote unquote quarantine. Like, fuck you. You know what I mean? Like, you're doing what they're telling you to do. It's sick. It's gross.
Neat. It's neat that we came upon this topic as a show during this time when you've got like militias and armed people protesting the lockdown.
Yeah, and once again, they are painting them as lunatics.
Yeah.
They're doing a good job of it, too. And the thing is, these anti-government protesters aren't helping themselves either because they're letting themselves get lined up with the wrong kinds of people. You know, the bad kind of anti-government people, like the ones that brandish swastikas and
the ones that are secretly feds.
Yeah. Which, if I was at one of those rallies, I would tell those dudes to fuck themselves and get the fuck out of there, because we ain't part of what you're about.
I don't need your fucking tape recorder, bitch.
And like I said, you don't hear about the anti-government groups that live off the grid, who live peacefully, and there's way more of them than there are of the others.
For sure.
But you don't hear about them. Mm-hmm. But basically, to wrap it up with this whole issue, this gives you what the outcome was, and that was Timothy Mcveigh was executed by lethal injection on June 11, 2001 at the Federal Correctional Complex in Terre Haute, Indiana. His execution was carried out in a considerably shorter time than most inmates awaiting the death penalty, probably because he was getting tired of being in prison.
Yeah, for sure.
As most convicts on death row in the United States spend an average of 15 years there, Terry Nichols and Michael Fortier were also convicted as conspirators in the plot. Nichols was sentenced to 8 life terms for the death of 8 federal agents and to 161 life terms. So if anybody was, you know what, if McVeigh was in on it, I don't think Terry Nichols was.
Yeah, he was just a carry along.
He was just he's the fall guy, right? Because he probably thought Timmy was part of his side the whole time.
I bet he's pissed.
But life terms without parole by the state of Oklahoma for the death of the others. Fortier was sentenced to 12 years imprisonment and has since been released. Yeah, they tried to put him to death, but they deadlocked on that. Stupid juries and their stupid deadlocking.
Yeah. Unsure of things. Questioning stuff.
But like I said before, he was sentenced to 161 consecutive life terms without the possibility of parole. He is incarcerated. Man, listen. The ADX Florence, a super maximum security prison near Florence, Colorado. He shares a cell block that is commonly referred to as Bomber's Row with Ramzi Youssef, Eric Rudolph, and Ted Theodore Kaczynski.
A lot of people got a lot of things to say, I'm sure.
Man, listen. I bet you that cell block is fucking live.
Yeah, those are the dudes that have like the soundproof doors that have to take all the water out of their toilets to talk through the empty plumbing.
Yeah. You go down that cell, and I bet you just hear the rattling of typewriters, like just constantly. But yeah, if you want to look into it more, there's so many sources out there. And like I said, at the end of the episode, stay tuned because we're going to put a interview with one of the survivors at the end. But before we go, just wanted to, talk to you guys real quick. 2020 sucked. And
man,
here last couple of days, I had to say goodbye to one of my best friends, my good friend, my dog Queenie. Literally my dog, not a colloquial. She was my dog.
Right.
Had her for a really long time, and I'm talked to her on the show before. She's what we referred to as the shit hyena before.
Yeah.
She was a great dog.
Four-legged warrior.
Yeah, she went quick, didn't suffer. And I know I talked about her before when she was having surgeries and stuff, and she wasn't feeling well. And you guys sent out that positive vibes, and I appreciate that. But I just figured I'd let you guys know that she moved on across the Rainbow Bridge, and she's waiting at the clearing at the end of the path.
Eating a cheeseburger.
Yeah. But I think that about wraps it up for the show.
Yep.
We'd like to thank you all for listening.
Yes.
If you want to get a hold of us, it's pretty easy.
We're on Instagram at instagram.com/bonesandtubs.
You can hit us in them DMs.
Yeah.
We have an email.
bonesandtubs@gmail.com.
We like to get those emails from you boys.
Especially, like I said, anybody from Washington or nearby that knows about these perhaps real or fake murder wasps.
Yeah. We're on Facebook.
Facebook.com/bonesandtubs.
Hey, also, if you haven't done it yet, and every time we mention it, we get more. Go over to YouTube.
Yes.
Hit the subscribe button.
YouTube.com/bonesandtubs show.
Every time we mention it, we get about, seems like 5 or 6 people suddenly just pop in.
Yeah.
You keep doing that, we could do live videos.
We need to hit 1,000 and we can do mobile live.
That'd be fucking sweet.
Right. Help us get banned quicker.
Yeah, right. Like Dave. Speaking of which, I wanted to mention David Icke. Mm-hmm. Well, dick's out for David Icke, man. They fucked his eyeballs out.
He's the British Harambe right now.
Yeah, man. They fucking Facebook and YouTube hit him with a double fucking hitter.
He's like actually real Alex Jones.
Yeah, real life. Yeah. But we'd like to thank you all for listening. We hope you enjoyed the episode. We hope you have a good week and stay safe.
Yes.
And don't snitch on your neighbors.
Don't.
I shouldn't have to tell you that.
Snitches get stitches.
Yeah, true. Actually, we're past stitches now. Stitches just get killed.
Shot.
Yeah,
this is Fight Club, motherfucker.
Yeah. So, yeah, thank you all for listening. We hope you guys tune in next week. Between now and then, you guys stay safe.
Here's that interview. We love you.
We really do.
We have Jane Graham's affidavit. We've interviewed the former foreman of the Oklahoma City grand jury. We've interviewed police officers. We have a very clear picture of what happened that day. A very clear picture. And in fact, Jane, if memory serves, I've interviewed her in years. I remember that she even saw some of the people that she saw working in the building planting gray sticks of butter with wires who had federal passes as maintenance people on some of the news footage. And I've talked to other witnesses that said they saw those men in there. And then on the news, after the bomb had gone off, they'd say, well, that's him. Well, that's him. John Doe number 2, Iraqis involved, all protected by the U.S. government. Jane Graham is a 9th floor survivor of the Murrah Federal Building bombing in Oklahoma City in '95. She's made a video affidavit after she watched the video cover up in Oklahoma. In that video, she recognized seeing 2 men who were caught on camera walking hurriedly away from the building after the bombing, holding walkie-talkies. She says that she had noticed these men in the building prior to the bombing wearing General Services Administration maintenance uniforms, that she did not recognize GSA employees. And we have her affidavit up on Infowars.com. Now, there's a new article out by Red Dirt Report, a great outfit out of Oklahoma, and it boils down. Again, she's one of scores of survivors and witnesses that basically tell the same story. Okay? And now you have Terry Nichols saying in a sworn federal affidavit that Mcveigh was a black op operator. You have Mcveigh separately saying one day it'll come out the government did this. The ATF 30 seconds after the bombing in full bomb gear telling medics, patch me up, I was on the 9th floor. She was on the 9th floor. It was almost completely destroyed. Asinine. While Oklahoma and the rest of the world respectively remember the 168 people who died in the bombing of the Alfred P. Murrah Federal Building in Oklahoma City, one survivor of April 1995 blast, Jane Graham, wants her questions about what really happened that day answered once and for all. Graham, a native of Chicago, was working for HUD office on the 9th floor of the Murrah Building that morning, told Red Dirt Report that there were a lot of strange things going on in the weeks leading up to the bombing, things that she shared numerous times with federal agents, things she felt were ignored. This including the presence of maintenance workers she did not recognize, military people in the parking garage, and more unusual activity. But one of the key figures, the bomber himself, Tim Mcveigh, was spotted in the federal building on a number of occasions, and by multiple witnesses, I would add. It was a couple of weeks before the bombing. I had seen Mcveigh in the building prior to the bombing around the first week of April. Mcveigh, Graham said, rode up the elevator while she was heading to her office on that morning. And we have the former head of Air Force Weapons Development saying the building was blown out, not in. And you have the seismographs and the blast points. I mean, it just goes on and on. Hoppy Heidelberg, the grand juror foreman, being threatened by the FBI, and cops being killed who spoke out. I mean, it's unbelievable. And I'm going to have her back up in the next few weeks for a full hour. She's very gracious, but I hate to even cover this without going over all the evidence. Let me just read a few more lines and we're going to her. She said, Mcveigh was in military fatigues. I looked at him and said, hi, and he simply looked straight ahead. He got off the 6th floor. I turned to someone else in the elevator and said, well, he's certainly not very friendly. Another time, Graham said, he was in the elevator again and got off on the 9th floor where the Secret Service and BATF offices were located. Another unusual event Graham recalled was on Friday, April 14th, 95. She had parked in the Murrah parking garage, and she noticed 3 men standing together on the south side of the parking area. One of the men was holding what looked like floor plans. She said at first she thought about the recent phone problems that had been plaguing the building and problems with gas fumes in the area. I watched them carefully, Graham said. They were standing behind a green light station wagon, like an old country squire wagon. It was filthy, and I couldn't see the plate on it. As she watched the 3 men, one of whom was wearing dark clothing and 2 wearing short sleeves and jeans, one of the men held a stack or a roll of what appeared to be telephone wire. And then we'll have her finish up with what she was told, and she talked to other people, military personnel, people that said they were FBI, people she'd not seen before. It just goes on and on. People approached her, identified themselves as FBI, wanted to know about the men. I mean, it just goes on and on. And Jane Graham on record's been all over national TV. She was up there on the 9th floor. She's one of the survivors. And Jane Graham, we appreciate your courage, and you're speaking out again, and it's good to have you on with us.
Thank you very much for having me. Yes, go ahead.
No. I mean, you go ahead. I mean, millions are listening. Tell folks what really happened.
Well, I think you've covered a lot of it, but going back to, I'll try and keep it, the most important part was the Friday before when I saw the men down below. I was asked about the 3 men, and I did tell them that they wanted to know what I thought they were, and I said, well, I would take the man in charge being a surveyor and military. I said that was the first 2 things that came to my mind when I saw them, and they had, and I gave them a visualizing the size of the plans that I watched them, which they were holding up, and I was told that that is exactly the size of plans that plans are when they are, in fact, drawings of the building and the garage area. And the third gentleman was tall, very, very nice-looking man. Dark hair. His hair came right to his collar. He had very dark eyes, dark hair. He wore a black cowboy hat with a silver trim on the hat, and he had black jeans, black boots, black shirt. And I really got a good look at him. He turned away from me and went to the north wall and was having a cigarette, and he did not want me to watch him.
And, of course, we now know, I mean, you saw him on the news, Andreas Stossmeyer,
yes,
the son of a top SS general, is an admitted Black Ops commander for German and U.S. intelligence, and was at Elohim City being run by the Southern Poverty Law Center.
Yes. And he that was who I identified later on. I also identified one of the men when I was finally shown some pictures, not by the FBI, not by the police, but through a private investigator who was giving me, and I identified Gary Hunt as one of the gentlemen that I saw in the building the day before and the morning of the bombing, with another man who was about 5'8", light brownish blonde hair, very poor, very, very bad complected. When they both came out of the stairwell, they looked directly at me, and then they bent their heads down and turned around the corner to go around the hallway past GSA, because that is an outside door there to the outside of the building on the the west end of the building. So I was very much aware of them, and then I was going to go upstairs, and I thought it was odd that they came down the stairwell, and as I said, they were going quite quickly, and I was talking to somebody else about the fact that I had seen some maintenance men, some outside maintenance men. And it wasn't just right after that, when I was waiting at the elevator, a gentleman came up to me and said he was talking to some others, and he said, I'm from the FBI, and I wanted, someone told me that you have seen 2 maintenance men. And I said, no. I said, I didn't. And of course, at that time, I was thinking was they were talking about the elevator, which we'd had a problem with, or the phone company. And it wasn't registering to me at all about associating them with the 2 GSA dressed maintenance men. And it was only later on, after I saw a video and saw the 2 of those men, I realized this is the men that they were referring to, who somebody obviously had told them. I assume it was the men that I passed, that I had seen them. So that, I think, and that in itself probably saved my life at that point, because Terry Yakey had seen so much, and he was killed. A lot of people were murdered because of what they saw or what they wrote or what they did. And
yeah, let me stop you there. Terrence Yagey was Cop of the Year that year. He went in, local Oklahoma City cop, saved a bunch of people, and the last person he talked to was his partner. He'd hidden evidence of it being an inside job in a storage locker outside town. He'd been told to get off the case by his superiors, and the last phone call to his partner said, "I'm being tailed by feds," and then he was found murdered and tortured.
That's right. That is correct. And I did go. I wrote a letter to Stephen Jones. I wrote a letter to the FBI. I wrote one to my doctor and another person, and I told them exactly what I saw. I gave them descriptions of the men. I gave them what they were wearing, everything I could about them and what had occurred. And I never did hear anything from anyone regarding from the FBI or the police about looking at pictures of anyone, trying to identify anyone. And I did talk to one attorney, and he said, well, I know the sketch artists for the police. They're just really, really good. We'll get a sketch done. I said, fine. Never heard from him again after that. It just dropped. That was the end of that discussion. I went with Debbie Nakanashi to Washington several times, deal with this as far as from the legal aspect of the government and for review and so forth. And he said, well, there were only I think 3 men that deal with a lot of these issues, and that really there wasn't anything that they could do. And I tried to see the congressmen and senators from the state of Oklahoma. None of them would see me or talk to me, and the only person that would talk to me was James Trafficant. And I did meet in his office. I met his assistant, and at that time he had requested from GSA all of their files. And the FBI had come to him and told him that they wanted to go through all of the files that he had to white out various things that would be incriminating, and he told them they didn't have the authority to do that. And but he would give them one day, and they said, because he said they would not be able to do that. And his assistant told me that they had threatened James Trafficant and said, "We will get you for this. We're going to get you over there."
And it's now been declassified that the current Attorney General, back at the time, was the deputy, and the memos have been released in his emails where he said, we've got to have a full court press. This is like D-Day. We've got to get down to Oklahoma City. This is on the 16th, and cover this up, or it's over for us. And we can even pull those emails up. I've read them on air. And so that clearly shows they were going into Congressman's office and saying, you shut your mouth. There's so much to talk to you about, Jane Graham. Expanding on this, what about your run-ins with Tim Mcveigh in the weeks before the Alfred P. Murrah building was blown out from under you?
Yes, he was there. He was there a number of times, going up. As I said, he went to the 6th floor. I think he even went to the 5th floor, and certainly the 9th floor. He had gone up there, and I really thought that he was with the military units there and going in to report, or up on the 9th floor, they had ATF and other operations up there. And I thought, well, whatever he's doing, he's new, and he's just, reporting in to whatever he needed to do. And the comment I made about his not talking was the fact that everybody in that building would always be very pleasant and always friendly and, hi, how are you? Regardless if you didn't know them, they spoke. And he absolutely would just look straight ahead, totally military. And also, one of the things most people do not know is that the bomb squad had parked across in the church parking lot that morning and had their dogs out. And one of the postal workers, a friend of mine that went with me to Washington several times, she had seen them out. She was told her job was threatened. She was told, do not discuss this with anybody. And she went to the union in regards to that issue and got that was taken care of relatively quickly. but it was important because when I went up to the 7th floor, I ran into Trish Nix, who was killed in the bombing, and she said, "Have you seen the bomb squad?" And I said, "No, I haven't." And she said, "Well, they've been in the building." So I knew right then that there was something going on. And, of course, like I said earlier, in 2 weeks before that, when I was in the coffee shop, I was sitting at a booth, and right next to me on the other booth was another lady talking to a friend of hers, telling her that she had called a friend who worked at the FBI office at 50 Penn Place, and that this friend had received a fax stating that there was going to be a bombing in the federal building, and I was and she gave it to her supervisor, and he said, "Don't worry about it. We know about it already." And I was concerned because at that time, daughter-in-law had been working at Valley, which is in 50 Penn Place, and I said, "Oh my God, surely!" When I came home, I said, "Surely they're not someone is going to try and bomb 50 Penn Place." Of course, that's where FBI was, and I thought, all those people, are there. They have nothing to do with the government. And
well, Jane, let me back you up on this, because some of this has come out in newspapers, but I have an employee whose dad was working in a federal building in Dallas, and they got that fax the day before that a federal building was going to be blown up. And then I know someone separately who was working in a federal building at the time on the West Coast who remembers those faxes coming in, and it's even come out in the news that there were some warnings. But you've got Mcveigh in the building. You've got all these guys running around. Going back from some of your earlier video testimony, and I haven't seen it in years, but am I correct in saying you didn't just see wiring? You saw gray sticks of butter?
I didn't know what it was at the time. I saw it looked like putty, and I thought, I just thought I didn't know what it was until someone told me, "Oh no, that's C4. That's what that looks like."
Now, who had the blocks of gray putty?
Those were the two. That was the man that was with the gentleman who was holding the plans in the building.
And so you're walking by these guys, and you'd never seen these maintenance crews, but they're there with wires and gray putty.
No, not the two maintenance men.
This is separate.
These other three men were entirely different men. I would have bet money on the two being military, absolutely military. The other one, who I later identified, was a Strassmeyer, but those three were different than Mcveigh.
Okay, hold on. We've got a final segment. It's clear we're going to have to get you up again and really debrief you on all this. Well, here's the headline. Murrow bombing survivor says feds involved in blast that killed 168 in 1995. And it's chilling. I was talking to Jane Graham during the break, and I said, "Do you see the same propaganda? Clinton saying, I hope there doesn't have to be a terror attack to make the Tea Party shut up. Where do you see this going?" And what she said was chilling. But finish up. So it was Strassmeyer and the other two guys in the garage you saw with the gray sticks of putty or butter. Now, specifically, where do you think this is all going? Who do you think from the evidence was behind this?
There's several things. First of all, the ATF that morning, and I think people need to understand, that morning before the bombing, there were two men dressed with ATF raid jackets on, talking to a third gentleman outside in front of the Murrow building that morning. And I then found out you don't wear those unless there's something going down where they need to be recognizable immediately. That's one. Strassmeyer and the other two gentlemen that were in the garage the Friday before, yes, what I saw them have, I was told that what I thought was the putty was in fact actually what was I gave a description of, and I was told that's C4. And what I am saying is that if anyone goes back in history, history repeats itself always, but governments have always, one of the things they have done, they go in and they take care of creating an incident, creating a bombing or whatever, in order to come back in and fix it so that whatever has happened, they've got a solution of how they're going to fix the problem, whether it be they're going to say, well, the terrorists did it. We now have to have additional protection. We need to have blame it on the militia. We need to blame it on, we need to have a Patriot Act. We need gun control. What they've always got an agenda to take away rights and to sell it to the public in mass as we're protecting you. We're the good guys. We're taking care of you. We're protecting you. And I'm saying that this was done. They can claim that they had no part in it because then they don't have any liability issues involved in it. And even though they were behind it, and I imagine and feel very confident in that they did have Mcveigh on their payroll. They did get Strassmeyer out of the country with his luggage, with everything. A straight shot through was told, I understand from others, he's told, do not go through his luggage. Just give him a free pass to go back to Germany. There were other people who were involved, and money that came from the Islam countries and involved, and so they could go from a very technical, big organization and having other people do their work through FBI, CIA, and then say, well, we don't know anything about it.
Absolutely, Jane.
Somebody else.
Jane, Oklahoma City bombing survivor, we're out of time. In closing, though, are you concerned seeing the same buildup of propaganda claiming domestic groups are going to attack again?
Yes.
The government's doing unpopular things. They need to play the part of the victim again. I see pre-programming for another Oklahoma City. Do you agree?
Absolutely. I think they will do something. I really believe if it's not a bombing, I think it's going to be something that will have to do with water supplies or germ warfare of some sort. But they're planning ahead to do something big in order to blame the militias, blame the Tea Parties, because the American public is getting fed up with having their rights taken away, being taxed to death, and government is controlling everything now.
The bad thing about being honest and straightforward and doing that is people know where you stand and they try to take advantage of you. They take advantage of your good nature. They take advantage of the fact that they know that you're a good guy, you are a straight shooter, and that you're not going to retaliate on them when they fuck you. Well, folks, most of the time I believe that's probably true. But God built me to be here to prove to you that what you have been doing for God knows how many years is wrong. You picked on the wrong man. I'm not tough.
You hear that?
I'm not that strong.
Yeah. They rolled up in all black, windows half crashed, scoping out the scene before they attack. Had they on bad guys in most people's eyes. Most trust them with their life cause they got a badge and tie. Gifted a position given to them by a system that set it all up to put the kids into prison. This is non-fiction, non-violence, so just listen. They got a mission to imprison your mind and soul. This ain't nothing new, but we survive what we're sold. And don't believe in ourselves, but believe what we're told. And we're all molded by a machine that gets in your dreams and can get in your gut and kill your self-esteem. And I've been scolded and told who I should be, but I'll never conform. I was born to be free. It's a setup, I never let up. From the cradle to the grave, they got you in the cage. It's a setup, so keep your head up, cause they're selling all that doubt with every word at the mouth. It's a setup, I never let up. From the cradle to the grave, they got you in the cage. It's a setup, so keep your head up, cause they're selling all that doubt with every word at the mouth. Giving numbers a birth, yeah, that's a fact. Deny it if you want, but I'll do the math. I face facts and understand how to overstand the plan with my mind intact. And I got more than a plan, I got hope and belief, dreams and faith, and know damn well that's what they want to take. It's a weapon, fear's aggression, and they plant it in our minds to the point we can't find a way out, a way in. And anywhere you go, you'll see a many men over there and everywhere. They're armed and prepared to do whatever and never let up. From the cradle to the grave, they got you in the cage, it's a setup. So keep your head up, cause it's selling all that doubt with every word at the mouth, it's a setup. And never let up. From the cradle to the grave, they got you in the cage, it's a setup. So keep your head up, cause it's selling all that doubt with every word at the mouth.